Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us as we react to breaking news from last night. I was already in bed. Well done to the Blue Monday team who went live straight after the news that Paul Lambert is gone from Ipswich Town as manager. Now, I cannot use the word fired or sacked or dismissed. This is mutual consent, but Paul Lambert's reign, which was at best, it was fun a couple of times, as we'll go through, but in the main, a bit gnarly and confrontational and ultimately disastrous. A relegation and a season and 2/3 in League One, and Paul Lambert has gone. Here's what the club had to say last night. Blues looking for new boss after mutual consent departure. Ipswich have parted company with Paul Lambert. Former Scotland international has been in charge of the club since October 2018. Assistant manager Stuart Taylor has also left. Here's some Marcus Evans quotes. I'd like to put on record my sincere thanks to Paul and Stuart for their services to Ipswich Town over the last 2.5 years. I've enjoyed a healthy working relationship with Paul in our time together, and he has brought a lot of positive aspects to the club. It has, however, become clear after holding discussions over the last few days that there are significant differences of opinion as to the order of immediate priorities, and we agreed it was best for us to part company. I would like to wish Paul and Stuart the best in the future. We heard about these showdown talks, didn't we? We thought they could have happened last week, but it went into this week, and from what I've heard, it sounds like they were quite animated talks, if what I've heard is correct, and Evans and Lambert not on the same page whatsoever. Remember, this whole thing is now coloured by this takeover talk. That's the EADT from February 26th, just a few days ago. American investors on the verge of buying Ipswich Town, and there's been a big feeling that Marcus Evans, and I mean this is above whatever happens with Paul Lambert, Marcus Evans has obviously managed to find a buyer and sort of find his way out of Ipswich after 13 years, assuming that that all goes through. And there's been a bit of a sense that Lambert has been a bit of a dead man walking, whilst Evans is clearly focused on that and not going to make any big operational decisions. Lambert still in the job, still kind of falling out with the press and some of the players as well, as we'll go on. And it had just got so unseemly and so untenable. This idea that Lambert had basically... it felt a little bit like lunatic running asylum at the end of it, with no guidance from above, with Evans sorting this out. I mean, some would say that's how Evans has generally run the club. Just let the manager get on with it, which actually worked when Mick McCarthy was the manager, but certainly not since. And a bit of a sad demise in the end for Paul Lambert. Here he came, October 2018, with Ipswich bottom of the table, after 15 games with 9 points. And some would argue with 31 games to go and 5 points to make up, that the relegation that ultimately happened, he kind of got a free pass for that, Lambert. Everyone was behind him, and he did a lot that was, I guess it's turned out to be kind of for show, but he did do a lot in terms of building a positive atmosphere at the club. Although that positive atmosphere was there, obviously the dregs of the Mick McCarthy days, with the manager having a pop at the fans and the fans having a pop at the manager, and that was not nice. The good feeling was there when Paul Hurst took over, but then all the best players left, and Paul Hurst didn't sign some very good players with the money he was given, and Martin Waghorn sort of in the end, Bialkowski, Adam Webster, Joe Garner, Bersant Selina, David McGoldrick, all gone and in the main replaced with League One players, and it just was disastrous. But the good feeling was there. However, it was an abject failure that season. Relegation, look at that, first team relegated in the country by the 13th of April, and 31 points from 46 games. So, Mr. Lambert did kind of scoot by on the idea that everything needed a rebuild and it was going to have to be done in League One, and this relegation was inevitable. Or was it? It may turn out that two things can be true, that the club does need a rebuild, but the relegation, Mr. Lambert could have been somewhat culpable. It kind of... I was excited. I remember watching a game at Reading early on when he was this force of nature in the dugout, and it looked like he had a really defined system and playing this 4-3-3, and the football was very intense and up and at him, and he just couldn't get a win in those early few games, and then we were into throwing stuff at the wall and a different system every game, and you could see he was a little bit lost at sea. But the idea was down to League One he would go, and where Ipswich were not a muscular big championship club in the end, in League One, well, they were. They had a bigger squad, they had a bigger budget, and these things that other clubs don't like to hear, but generally over the previous 60 years had operated at a higher level, and the idea being that a competent managerial performance would be able to facilitate a promotion and start the rebuilding that was necessary. It did start very well, actually. That's after 15 games, 33 points, 10 wins, 3 draws. A brilliant, brilliant start. But just cast your eyes down there to the 31st of August. I came back from my holiday, and that was the first game. No, I saw the Burton game, didn't I? But then I went away on holiday. And I came back, and Ipswich are top of the league, and they're winning their 5th game. And I watched this Shrewsbury game, and Ipswich win 3-0. And I sat there, and I'm not being wise after the event, because you can watch my match review of it. So these feelings were put on record at the time online. And I was like, I don't get it. This team is right at the top of the league. They're not very good. Ipswich scored from a couple of counter-attacks. Shrewsbury got a player sent off, and then another breakaway, and they won 3-0. And I'm like, this does not look viable to me. And obviously I didn't want to appear contrarian and grumpy, but okay, great winning games, but didn't look viable. It wasn't viable. Horrible run. Look at that. 11 points in 12 games between the 20th of October and the 1st of January. That's relegation form over a period, 12 games is over a quarter of a season. And there's this big sense in League One. It's not rocket science in League One. It's all about competence, consistency, and basically just not being awful. There's plenty of teams that survive in the middle of League One. They don't have many amazing players. They don't have highly paid ex-championship players or the best players that have come up from League Two. But they're competent. Their managers make them hard to play against, and they limit the amount of mistakes that they make. And this just was not happening for Lambert. Feeling of overcomplication and swapping goalkeepers around, swapping systems and players, and starting to get a bit tense all of a sudden. He's starting to chirp back at questions about his managership. And what did Mr. Marcus Evans do at this point? He gave him a 5-year contract. Just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. What's the quote there? Football management is a precarious business. I've stated many times the importance of having a long-term vision which is executed by a management team who are confident they will be given time to continually improve the performance of the squad. A decision that Marcus Evans is no doubt, he's probably already accepted it, but today come to regret. A lot of people saw signs that this wasn't going well, and okay, I mean, you can argue the flip. You know, what a great owner. He backed his manager. He gave him a long contract. But you're only a great owner if you back the right manager. And I think time has proven that Paul Lambert and or the combination of Paul Lambert and Marcus Evans have not been competent managers or football owners in terms of Ipswich Town. Just a balmy, bizarre decision, that new contract. Here comes COVID, and look at that. 4 straight defeats, really poor at home, and remember this is in front of fans. And so that's Ipswich Town finishing in 10th position. Remember when the points per game is ratcheted in, Gillingham go above Ipswich. Of course, Wycombe go up from 8th into the playoffs and win the playoffs. But just a real big sense of absolute failure, frankly. And this isn't... Again, I know some League One fans react badly to comments like this, but it is what it is. It's the same in the Premier League that there are teams that just have bigger resources and bigger opportunity if they're run competently to win games than others. It just is the case, and Ipswich came down in that position with, you know, the big fan base, the big salary, the big salary budget, the big squad, etc., and just a miserable failure. And that's not me being a grumpy football fan. I watched a lot of those games, was at a lot of those games. 10th in League One is a poor performance with those resources. And when you compare it to Gillingham moving above, you'd say Gillingham 10th is a really good performance with those resources. So context is king. But here we go again. Lambert backed, and another good start this season. So now Lambert's sort of 3rd season, really, because when you think about it, he did get a lot of that first season. Again, away they go, winning 7 of the first 10 games. But remember, suspicion abounds now with Mr. Lambert. Everybody a little bit on tenterhooks. We saw this last season, and this tailed off. And go figure, tails off again. Look at that. The next 19 games, only 23 points scored, 17th best in the division over that period. And you look up the top with teams like Pompey, 17 points more, and Lincoln 16 more, Doncaster 15 more. You're talking about big swings and just this awful sense of this is all over the place. Either, you know, big, you know, winning streaks for 5-10 games followed by huge poor runs. Just didn't have the air ever of being in control of the squad, the job, making a viable change in a challenge, in a consistent way. And that leads us up to this past 2 weeks where things have just been absolutely balmy, frankly. I mean, the past 2 weeks is where things have come to a head and it's been a little bit crazy. But it's lasted longer than that now. We've started to get, you know, leaky sieve. Lots of stuff coming out from the club about Lambert and Stuart Taylor, really his assistant, sort of on an island on their own, not getting along really with everyone else. We had the beloved Phil Ham, who's covered Ipswich for years through TWTD. He was banned from asking questions and going to the press conferences and the press box. I think Luke Wolfenden falling out with a young centre half, and you know, a bit of back and forth. We started to get red cards in the game. John Nolan, as you can see there, and I was going to say Kevin Nolan, John Nolan and Caden Jackson, exiled. Out they go, just open, and probably other League One clubs are going, how much are you paying those two? We could use players like that, and here's Ipswich just bombing them out. How entirely ridiculous. And then Lambert's manner started to become... I mean, it doesn't help that everybody's required to cover their mouth, and he's sort of in these interviews huddled, really prickly with, with all the jokes. Just awful, absolutely depressing. Of course, the football on the pitch was depressing as well. Then the takeover stuff comes. In the last 4 games, I mean, the Northampton one was particularly depressing because Northampton, right down at the bottom of the league, fair dues to them, they had a good go in that game. 0-0 and just, the zombified performance with the team. And then what would appear to have happened, and I'm putting my tinfoil hat on for this bit, is that Matt Gill, the assistant, appears to have basically taken over, we think possibly in the background, because the style of the team, all of a sudden, Lambert had constantly wanted to play this, dare I say, passing football through the thirds out from the back, and just wasn't able to coach it. And, I've got no problem with people playing football in whatever way they like, really. My argument is always a good football team creates a lot of big chances and doesn't concede many. However you do that is fine. If it's through passing through the thirds and rotation in the midfield and beautiful flowing football, great. If it's through safety, push up, play the channels, exploit set plays or whatever, fine, whatever. But don't choose something that you don't appear to be able to coach. And it seems like Ipswich's past couple of games have play on the front foot, press, don't take risks at the back, be direct. It's League One. Force errors from players who are, sound snotty. League One players, will give you more opportunities than Championship players, who will give you more opportunities than Premier League players. Like I said, it's not rocket science as you go down the football pyramid. It doesn't have to be based on Pep Guardiola, Barcelona 2009. You have to get winning football in a way that your players understand and you understand how to coach. And that had been the big issue, obviously. And then Ipswich get a couple of good results. The thing with Paul Lambert that had been obvious, you can see there, Hull 0, Ipswich 1, Ipswich 2, Doncaster 1. In the whole of League One, whenever Ipswich had come up against a side in the top 6, even top 8, above them, difficult game, use whatever terms you're comfortable with, they didn't win. And all of a sudden it was simplify, play on the front foot. They beat two top teams in a row there without having done it for basically 2 years, or in very small number. And I'm talking once over the 2 years. I think Crewe might have been in the top 6 when Ipswich played them at home. So then we get to these showdown talks and the takeover thing happening and the Paul Cook set up in the background. And it obviously looks like they've come to some, whatever you want to say, mutual agreement. Lambert hasn't been sacked. I can't say that. I'm sure there's been some kind of payoff. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know. But one would assume that a mutual consent agreement with a manager who signed a contract extension to make his deal 5 years only January the 1st, 2020, would have probably involved Marcus Evans making a financial offer that was desirable to Paul Lambert. And it sounds like, frankly, they've fallen out and it's gone down in flames. And that brings us to the current state of play. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. Obviously, it's been really crap being an Ipswich fan for a fair while. So forgive me a day of optimism, because there haven't been many, put it that way, in the last 13 years. A few optimistic times followed by false dawns and either stagnation in the Championship, and as Evans realised, he was willing to spend less and less money and the parachute payments went up and the FFP kicked in. Just a slow decline down into nothingness, and then the inability to challenge in League One. So depressing. But it looks like Paul Cook is lined up. Paul Cook, whose Wigan team I was a very big fan of at the back end of last season, who also has promotions with Chesterfield and Pompey, Wigan from League One as well. Yes, for all of you who are going to comment, Paul Jewell had promotions before, Mick McCarthy had promotions before, Paul Hurst had promotions before, Paul Lambert had promotions before, Roy Keane had promotions before. So yes, I get that. We've been here before, but again, forgive me for at least a few hours of optimism. But no one's going to be in for the Accrington game, which is tomorrow. Essentially, you have a squad who's 2 points off 6th place and 4 points off 5th place. And there is some idea that a perfect storm of a very unhappy camp, followed by the manager who appeared to be at the centre of a lot of that unhappiness going out. A new regime, a new confident outlook with a squad that frankly should be able to challenge, and a club with a size at League One level that should be able to challenge. Perhaps you could get the perfect storm of an actual viable playoff challenge within these remaining, it's still 17 games, you know. Well, that's a lot if you can come in and just competence, as I keep saying it, just give a competent managerial performance. If that does turn out to be Paul Cook, then fine, awesome. He's been linked with plenty of higher profile jobs. He was offered Cardiff for 6 months, which Mick McCarthy's ended up taking. Sheffield Wednesday as well for 6 months. So he's a sought after guy. Let's see indeed. But mad goings on at my team, Ipswich. Paul Lambert has gone. You can check out the Blue Monday live reaction down the Blue Monday feed. Obviously, I'm a founder of that podcast. And if you want a kind of feeling of the fan reaction, that's my reaction and kind of the story of the failure of the Lambert era. And I do say that advisedly, as you really do have to link things with Marcus Evans, with Ipswich managers as well. And we'll be able to talk with hindsight, if the takeover does happen, about essentially, other than Mick having a really good go in 2014-15, a slew now, a series, a plethora of managers failing to do anything at Ipswich. And then you can say with hindsight what the common denominator was. But I won't do that until any takeover is complete, let's just say. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Remember, this is a video about Ipswich Town. I won't directly say what I want to say, but you wouldn't go into McDonald's yelling out, this is about, I want a Burger King. Just go to Burger King. So if you are a supporter of another team that wants to come on and make it about their team, it's kind of not really the right place. Let's try and have a sensible dialogue in the comments about all the things I have just said. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's going to be a busy day, I think. Over and out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.